Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into a soft, starlit corner of ancient Greece, where the air smells of olive groves and the night hums with a strange silvery thread. Picture yourself sprawled on a hillside, cloak pulled tight against the evening chill, staring up at a sky so clear it feels like you could pluck the stars. Somewhere out there, in that vast indigo, a faint spark flickers. Not a star, but something else. It's Athena's loom, glowing with divine energy, its threads weaving the fates of gods and mortals alike. You're about to unravel why this goddess, all brain and no patience for nonsense, decided to teach clumsy human hands the art of spinning cloth. Fair warning, you probably won't survive the first lesson without tangling your fingers in celestial thread. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I love knowing where you're drifting off from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're lying there, eyes fixed on the sky, when that spark catches your attention again. It's not just a trick of the light. The glimmer pulses like a heartbeat, and you squint to make sense of it. The air around you feels heavier now, charged with something ancient. That's Athena's loom, or so the old stories whisper. Not some rickety wooden frame like the ones in mortal villages, but a divine contraption spun from starlight and ambition. Its threads shimmer gold one moment, silver the next, and if you listen closely, you swear you hear a faint hum, like a lute string plucked by an unseen hand. This isn't just a tool for making tunics. It's a piece of Olympus itself, a gift from Athena's own mind. You can almost see her now, gray eyes sharp as a spear point, her owl perched nearby, watching the cosmos unfold on that impossible loom. Let's pause for a mainstream fact to ground us. Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, was also the patron of crafts like weaving, a role carved into Greek culture by the 8th century BCE. Temples dedicated to her, like the Parthenon, often housed looms as sacred symbols of her influence. But here's a quirky tidbit. Some ancient poets claimed Athena's loom could weave tapestries that moved, showing living scenes of battles or lovers' quarrels. Imagine a cloth that plays out the Trojan War like a silent movie. True or not, the idea makes your hillside stargazing feel a little more magical, doesn't it? You shift on the grass, the ground cool beneath you, and try to picture how this all started. Athena didn't just wake up one day and decide to play craft teacher to mortals. No, the Greeks believed she saw something in humanity, potential maybe, or just a chance to flex her divine IQ. Historians still argue whether Athena's weaving obsession was about empowering mortals or keeping them busy so they'd stop pestering the gods. Whatever her motive, that loom up there, sparkling in the void, is the key. You can almost feel its threads tugging at you, pulling you closer to her world. It's not just a machine. It's a bridge between her divine perfection and your muddy mortal existence. Here's a little joke to keep things light. Why did Athena's loom never break? Because it was threaded with decaf, divine, cosmic, always functioning. Okay, maybe you're not laughing, but you're picturing that loom now, aren't you? Its frame gleams like polished bronze, and the shuttle zips back and forth with a rhythm that's oddly soothing. You blink, and the stars seem to rearrange themselves, mimicking the warp and weft of her cosmic cloth. It's hypnotic, like watching waves lap at a shore. You're starting to understand why the Greeks thought weaving was sacred. It's not just about making fabric. It's about order, creation, stitching chaos into something beautiful. Back to the scene. You're still on that hillside, the night air now carrying a faint scent of wool and cedar. The loom's glow feels closer, as if Athena's letting you peek at her handiwork. You wonder what she's weaving tonight. A hero's fate, a city's downfall, or maybe just a really nice shawl for Zeus. The thought makes you grin, but there's a weight to it too. This is Athena, after all. She doesn't do anything without a plan. That loom is her mind made visible, every thread a calculation. And somewhere in those calculations, she's starting to notice mortals like you, fumbling, hopeful, and utterly clueless about weaving. You roll onto your side, the grass tickling your cheek, and let the loom's hum fill your ears. It's not loud, but it's persistent, like a lullaby you can't ignore. You're not sure if you're dreaming or just lost in the story, but you feel a shift. Athena's attention is turning earthward. She's seen something in those mortal villages. Maybe a woman struggling with a broken spindle, or a man cursing a snagged thread. Her loom pulses brighter, and you know she's about to act. But what's her first move? That's a question for the next stretch of our tale. You're still sprawled on that Greek hillside, the starlight soft, but the air now tinged with a faint, earthy whiff of wool and sweat. The glow of Athena's cosmic loom has faded slightly, like a lantern dimmed, but its hum lingers in your ears, pulling you deeper into the story. You're not watching the sky anymore. Your gaze drops to a cluster of mud brick huts below, where mortals are wrestling with the art of weaving, or more accurately, failing at it. Picture yourself wandering into this village, cloak brushing the dusty path, as you spot a woman hunched over a crude loom. Her fingers fumble with brittle reeds and tangled wool, her curses barely muffled by the evening breeze. You can't help but wince. These early spinners are trying to turn raw fleece into something wearable, but it's like watching someone solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. The scene is chaotic in a quiet, frustrating way. Looms here are little more than sticks lashed together, wobbling under the weight of lumpy threads. You step closer, dodging a stray goat nibbling at a pile of unspun wool. Another weaver, a wiry man with a sunburned neck, yanks at a snagged knot and snaps his reed shuttle in half. He tosses it into the dirt, muttering something about giving up and just wearing leaves. You get it. Spinning thread is hard enough, but weaving it into cloth? That's a whole new level of patience these folks don't have. The cloth they do manage to produce looks like it was chewed by that goat and spat back out. You're half tempted to help, but let's be honest, you'd probably make it worse. Here's a solid fact to anchor us. By the Bronze Age, around 2000 BCE, weaving was a cornerstone of Greek households, especially for women, who turned wool and flax into everything from tunics to sails. But here's the quirky bit. Some early looms were so primitive they were just weighted with stones, called loom weights, that dangled like awkward earrings. Archaeologists have dug up thousands of these clay lumps, each one a silent scream of frustration from a weaver like the ones you're watching. Historians still argue whether these early setups were a brilliant hack or a sign mortals were too stubborn to ask Athena for help sooner. You crouch beside the woman, her hands calloused and stained with dye that smells like fermented berries. She's trying to thread her loom, but the warp threads keep slipping, turning her work into a lopsided mess. You can almost hear her thoughts. Why does this have to be so hard? Across the village, it's the same story. Kids are tripping over piles of unspun wool. Elders are grumbling about how nobody weaves like they used to, and someone's dog has just run off with a ball of yarn. It's a sitcom of errors, and you're stuck in the audience, wondering how these people haven't given up entirely. Spoiler: they're too stubborn, or maybe too cold, to ditch the dream of a decent cloak. Time for a quick joke. Why did the ancient weaver quit? Because her loom was a real thread mill. Okay, you're probably not chuckling, but you're picturing that woman's loom collapsing again, aren't you? It's not just her. Every hut you pass has its own weaving disaster. Threads snapping, shuttles jamming, and cloth that looks like it's plotting revenge. You're starting to see why Athena's loom, that starry marvel you glimpsed last section, is such a big deal. These mortals are working with tools that belong in a museum of bad ideas, and their patience is thinner than the threads they're trying to spin. You pause by a low wall, the stone rough under your palms, and take in the village's rhythm. It's not all failure. There's a quiet determination here, a flicker of creativity in how they patch their mistakes with odd knots or dye their lumpy cloth to hide the flaws. You spot a girl, maybe 10, practicing with a tiny hand spindle, her tongue poking out in concentration. She's not good, but she's trying, and that effort feels like a spark. You wonder if Athena's watching her too. That cosmic loom of hers isn't just for show. It's a symbol of what could be, if only someone showed these people how to do it right. The air shifts, cooler now, carrying the scent of pine from the hills. You glance back at the sky, half expecting to see Athena's loom flare again, but it's quiet. Instead, you feel a prickle, like someone's watching. Not the villagers, not the goat still chewing wool, but something. Someone. Divine. Athena's out there, her gray eyes scanning this mess of mortal effort. You can almost sense her leaning forward, one eyebrow raised, as she studies the snapped reeds and tangled threads. She's not impressed, but she's not walking away either. Something about this struggle is catching her attention, and you're about to find out what. You settle against the wall, the village's soft chaos fading into a background hum. The woman's still cursing her loom, the man's still glaring at his broken shuttle. But there's a story forming here, one that's bigger than their failures. Athena's loom, that impossible starry thing, is about to collide with this dusty reality. You're not sure how, but you know it's coming. For now, you just watch, letting the village's stubborn, clumsy rhythm pull you deeper into the tale. You're still in that dusty Greek village, the night air thick with the scent of wool and frustration. The villagers' clumsy weaving attempts fade into the background as you sense a shift, like the world holding its breath. You're not watching the broken looms or the goat still munching yarn anymore. Your attention drifts upward, toward a presence you can't quite see but feel. Athena, goddess of wisdom, her gray eyes narrowing as she surveys the mortal mess below. You're sprawled on a patch of grass near the village edge, the ground cool and slightly damp, and you swear the stars above flicker with purpose. Athena's not just passing by, she's lingering, her divine mind turning over the sight of these struggling spinners. You're about to witness the moment her pity, or maybe just her annoyance, starts to stir. Picture yourself tilting your head, trying to catch a glimpse of her. No luck, but the air feels heavier, charged with that same starry hum you heard from her loom back on the hillside. It's like the universe is tuning itself to her thoughts. Down here, the villagers don't notice. The woman from last section is still wrestling with her lopsided loom, muttering about how the gods must hate her. You want to tell her she's half right? Athena's watching, but it's not hate. It's something softer, almost human. You can imagine Athena up there, her owl perched on her shoulder, muttering, "These mortals are hopeless, but maybe not entirely." Her fingers, usually gripping a spear or scroll, twitch as if itching to fix a tangled thread herself. Let's ground this with a fact. Athena was revered in ancient Greece not just for war and wisdom, but as a protector of domestic crafts, especially weaving, with festivals like the Panathenea celebrating her role by offering her woven robes. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some myths claim Athena's pity for mortals came from watching them shiver in poorly woven clothes, their lumpy tunics barely holding together in winter. True or not? It's easy to believe as you glance at the villagers' threadbare cloaks, patched with more hope than skill. Historians still argue whether Athena's interest in weaving was pure compassion or a strategic move to keep mortals productive and out of trouble. You shift on the grass, a stray pebble digging into your side, and let the scene sink in. The village is a patchwork of effort and error, looms creaking, threads snapping, and that one kid still spinning her tiny spindle with grim determination. You're starting to see what Athena sees. Not just failure, but potential. These mortals aren't giving up, even if their cloth looks like it was woven by a drunk cyclops. You grin at the thought. Joke number 1. Why did the cyclops try weaving? He thought one eye was enough to thread the needle. Okay, maybe it's not a banger, but it fits the mood as you watch another weaver snap a reed in frustration. Athena's presence feels closer now, like a warm shadow brushing your shoulders. You imagine her leaning over the edge of Olympus, her golden helm glinting, as she studies the woman with the lumpy loom. There's no divine PowerPoint presentation here, no grand epiphany. Just a goddess noticing the small, stubborn details of mortal life, the calluses on the woman's fingers, the way the kid's spindle wobbles but keeps spinning. You're caught up in it too, your breath slowing as you realize Athena's not just judging. She's moved. Not enough to swoop down and start handing out celestial yarn, but enough to start thinking. You can almost hear her mind ticking, weighing whether these mortals deserve her help. The village hums along, unaware of the divine gaze. You spot the sunburned man from last section, now trying to salvage his broken shuttle with a bit of twine. It's a losing battle, but he's not quitting. That's the thing about these people. They're messy, underprepared, and probably smell like goats, but they keep going. You're starting to root for them, and you bet Athena is too. Her loom, that starry marvel you glimpsed, feels like a promise now. If she could just share a fraction of its magic, these villagers might stop cursing their threads and start making something beautiful. Here's another light jab. Why did Athena watch mortals weave? She wanted to see if they'd invent the world's worst blanket. You smirk, picturing the goddess stifling a laugh as another loom collapses. But the humor fades as you feel her focus sharpen. She's not here for entertainment. The air grows still, the starry hum softening to a whisper. You're lying there, grass tickling your neck when you sense it. Athena's pity is turning into purpose. She's not ready to act yet, but the wheels are turning. You glance at the villagers one last time, their struggles lit by flickering oil lamps, and know they're about to catch a goddess's attention in a way they never expected. You're no longer just a bystander in that dusty Greek village, the scent of wool and pine still clinging to the night air. Now you're whisked upward, weightless, as if pulled by an invisible thread. You're floating toward Olympus, the mortal world shrinking below into a patchwork of flickering lamps and struggling looms. The starry hum of Athena's loom, that celestial pulse you felt earlier, grows louder. guiding you to a divine council where gods are about to bicker over, believe it or not, humanity's weaving woes. You land softly on a cloud, cool mist curling around your ankles, and find yourself in a golden hall where the air sparkles with immortal egos. Athena stands at the center, her spear propped casually against a pillar, while other gods lounge on thrones that look way too comfortable for a staff meeting. You try to blend in, tucking your cloak, and hoping nobody notices the mortal crashing their party. Athena's gray eyes scan the room, sharp as ever, but there's a new tension in her posture, like she's bracing for a fight. Zeus is sprawled at the head, lightning bolt balanced on his knee like a fidget toy. Poseidon's here too, smelling faintly of seaweed, and Hera's inspecting her nails with a look that says she's already bored. The topic? Those fumbling villagers you left behind, their broken shuttles and lumpy cloth. You lean forward, catching Athena's voice as she argues that mortals deserve better tools for weaving. It's not just about tunics, she says. It's about order, creation, a spark of divine craft in their messy lives. Here's a fact to keep us grounded. In Greek mythology, gods often debated mortal affairs, with weaving tied to Athena's domain as a symbol of civilization, especially in texts like the Homeric hymns from the 7th century BCE. Now for the quirky bit. Some lesser-known stories claim Apollo once mocked Athena's weaving obsession, saying mortals would be better off singing than tangling threads. You can imagine him strumming a lyre in the corner, smirking as Athena shoots him a death glare. Historians still argue whether these divine councils were poetic metaphors or a way to explain why gods like Athena meddled in human skills. You shift on the cloud, its surface weirdly springy, and tune into the debate. Athena's making her case, her voice calm but edged with that "don't test me" vibe. She describes the village you saw, the woman cursing her loom, the kid with the wobbly spindle, and you swear she's painting it with a touch of fondness. They're trying, she says, but their tools are garbage. Poseidon snorts, waves crashing somewhere in his aura. Why bother? Let them wear fishnets. You stifle a laugh. Joke number 1. Poseidon's fashion advice is why mortals invented tailors. Athena ignores him, but you catch her fingers twitching, like she's already designing a better loom in her head. Zeus, half listening, scratches his beard and asks if this is really worth divine time. Hera chimes in, pointing out that better weaving means better offerings. Think richly woven robes for her temples. You nod along, impressed by her hustle. But it's Athena's passion that holds the room. She's not just talking about cloth. She's talking about potential, about mortals stitching their chaos into something lasting. You're starting to see her not as a war goddess, but as a teacher itching to share her craft. The other gods aren't sold yet. Apollo's still humming, and Dionysus just spilled wine on his throne. But Athena's not backing down. The hall glows brighter, marble reflecting starlight, and you feel the weight of this moment. You're perched there, cloud dampening your cloak, when Athena pulls out a visual aid, a miniature loom, its threads glinting like the one you saw in the sky. She passes it around, and even Poseidon shuts up for a second. You crane your neck, wishing you could touch it. The shuttle moves on its own, weaving a tiny tapestry of a mortal village. Your village with its goats and all. It's mesmerizing, and you get why Athena's so invested. This isn't just about fixing bad cloth. It's about giving mortals a piece of her divine order. Here's another quip. Why did Zeus skip weaving lessons? Too many threads, not enough thunder. You smirk, but the mood in the hall is shifting. Athena's winning them over, or at least wearing them down. She's not asking for permission. She's Athena, she doesn't need it, but she wants their buy-in, maybe to avoid a divine turf war later. You glance at her owl, perched on a pillar, its eyes glinting like it's taking notes. The debate's winding down, and you sense Athena's ready to act, her mind already racing toward the mortals below. You sink deeper into the cloud, the council's voices fading to a soft hum. The starry loom's pulse is back, syncing with your breath. Athena's spear catches the light as she steps forward, her plan taking shape. You're not sure what's next, but you know she's about to bring that divine spark to the village you left behind. For now, you let the golden hall's glow wash over you, ready to follow her lead. You're drifting back from the golden haze of Olympus, the gods bickering fading like a distant echo. The starry hum of Athena's loom lingers in your ears as you find yourself hovering above that same Greek village, the night air sharp with pine and the faint musk of wool. You're not on the ground yet, just floating, like a leaf caught in a gentle updraft, watching the village sleep under a blanket of stars. Down there, the looms are still, the woman with the tangled threads snoring softly, the kid's spindle abandoned by a flickering lamp. But your focus isn't on them now. It's on Athena, invisible but closer than ever, her presence like a warm pressure at the back of your neck. She's done debating with Zeus and Poseidon. You can feel her mind at work, sketching a plan to teach these mortals how to weave without snapping every reed in sight. Picture yourself tilting your head, trying to catch her outline against the stars. No luck. She's too clever to show herself yet, but you swear the air shimmers where she stands. Athena's not one for grand gestures. She's all about strategy, and right now, she's mapping out her move. You imagine her gray eyes narrowing, her fingers tracing an invisible loom as she mutters to her owl about mortal potential. She's not just going to toss them a divine instruction manual and call it a day. No, she's designing a whole approach, part lesson plan, part cosmic nudge, to turn their clumsy hands into something skilled. You're caught up in her focus, your breath slowing as the village below seems to pulse with possibility. Here's a fact to keep us steady. In ancient Greek culture, weaving was so central that it was often taught by older women to younger ones, a tradition Athena was said to oversee as a divine mentor, especially in myths from the 6th century BCE. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some stories claim Athena tested her teaching methods on nymphs first, who wove clouds into misty veils before she trusted mortals with actual wool. You grin, picturing a nymph fumbling a cloud thread, while Athena sighs like an exasperated professor. Historians still argue whether Athena's teaching was a gift of pure generosity or a way to cement her influence over mortal crafts. You sink lower, the village coming into sharper focus. The goats are asleep, thank goodness, no longer chewing stray yarn. You're close enough to smell the dye vats, their berry and ash scent mingling with the night. Athena's plan is taking shape, and you're starting to piece it together. She's not going to appear in a blaze of glory. That's more Apollo's style. Instead, she's thinking small, practical. Maybe she'll start with one weaver, someone stubborn enough to keep trying despite the snapped shuttles. You imagine her scanning the huts, picking her first student, the woman from earlier with her calloused hands, the kid with the spindle, or someone new hidden in the shadows, whose potential even you haven't noticed yet. Time for a quick joke. Why did Athena plan so carefully? She didn't want to weave a tangled web. Okay, you're probably not rolling over laughing, but it fits as you sense her precision. She's not just thinking about looms, she's considering the mortals themselves, their tempers, their hopes. You picture her sketching mental notes, better loom frames, simpler threading techniques, maybe a trick to keep the warp threads from slipping. It's like watching a divine engineer at work, her mind a loom of its own, weaving ideas into a pattern mortals can follow. You're starting to admire her, not just as a goddess, but as someone who sees potential in the messiest of messes. The air grows cooler, a breeze stirring your cloak as you hover. You're low enough now to hear the soft creak of a loom left out in the open, its weights clinking faintly. Athena's presence feels stronger, like a hand guiding you to notice the details, the way the moonlight catches a pile of unspun wool, the faint order in the village's chaos. She's not ready to act yet, but you know she's close. Her plan is almost complete, a blueprint for teaching mortals to weave with skill, maybe even beauty. You wonder how she'll pull it off without scaring the goats or making the villagers think they're cursed. Here's another light jab. Why did Athena avoid flashy plans? She didn't want to unravel her mystique. You smirk, settling into the rhythm of her quiet intensity. The village below is still oblivious, its people dreaming of better cloth or warmer nights. But Athena's awake, her owl probably circling somewhere overhead, and you're right there with her, caught in the moment before everything changes. The starry hum is softer now, a lullaby weaving through the night. You let it pull you deeper, ready to see what Athena does next, as her plan locks into place and the mortal world waits for her touch. You're back in the Greek village, no longer floating, but standing on the dusty path, the night air thick with the scent of wool and cooling earth. The starry hum of Athena's loom is a faint echo now, replaced by the soft rustle of leaves and the occasional bleat of a distant goat. You're not alone. Athena's here, though you can't see her, yet. Her presence is like a prickle on your skin, a whisper of divine focus as she steps into the mortal world for the first time. You're about to follow her to a hut at the village's edge, where a group of weary weavers is gathered, their oil lamps casting jittery shadows on mud brick walls. This is it. The moment Athena stops planning and starts acting, choosing her first mortal encounter to teach the art of weaving. Picture yourself slipping through the village, your cloak brushing against a stray spindle left in the dirt. The hut ahead glows faintly, its door ajar, and you hear low voices, tired, hopeful, a little desperate. Inside, 4 women sit in a loose circle, their looms creaking under lumpy threads. You recognize the one from earlier, her calloused hands still wrestling with a snagged warp. Another, younger, with braided hair, is trying to mend a broken reed shuttle with a sliver of bone. They're sharing a jug of watered wine, griping about their tools but laughing too, the kind of laughter that comes from surviving another day of failure. You pause at the threshold, feeling Athena's presence sharpen, like she's standing right beside you, sizing them up. Here's a fact to anchor us. In ancient Greece, weaving was a communal activity, often done by women in groups, as depicted in vase paintings from the 5th century BCE, where looms are shown as central to household life. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some myths suggest Athena chose her first weavers based on their stubbornness, believing only the most persistent could handle her divine techniques. You grin, glancing at the women's determined faces. They're definitely stubborn, maybe even a little cranky. Historians still argue whether Athena's choice to teach mortals was about empowering women specifically, or just boosting mortal productivity overall. You ease closer, the hut's warmth wrapping around you like a woolen cloak. The women don't notice you, or Athena, who's probably cloaked in divine stealth mode. You imagine her gray eyes scanning the group, her owl perched somewhere in the rafters, blinking at the mess of threads. The braided woman curses as her shuttle snaps again, and you catch a faint shift in the air, like Athena's stifling a sigh. She's not here to fix their tools herself. That's not her style. Instead, you sense her studying their hands, their movements, calculating how to guide without overwhelming them. You're starting to get it. This isn't just about weaving cloth. It's about weaving confidence, skill, maybe even a spark of her own divine clarity. Time for a joke. Why did Athena pick this hut? It had the best thread-ition. Okay, you're probably not chuckling, but you're picturing her now, invisible but focused. Her spear leaned against an unseen wall. The women keep working, unaware of the goddess in their midst. You notice the older one, her fingers gnarled but steady, showing the youngest how to twist wool into a smoother thread. It's clumsy, but there's heart in it, and you bet Athena sees it too. You're caught up in the scene, your breath slowing as the lamps flicker, casting golden flecks on the looms. This is where it starts, not with a divine proclamation, but with a quiet choice. The air grows heavier, scented with olive oil and dye. You lean against the hut's wall, its rough texture grounding you, and watch the women's rhythm, slow, frustrated, but unbroken. Athena's plan, that blueprint you sensed last section, is coming alive. You imagine her whispering to herself, maybe even to her owl. Start small. Show them the warp first. She's not going to dazzle them with her starry loom. She'll meet them where they are, with their wobbly frames and snapped reeds. You admire her restraint. It's like a chef teaching kids to boil water before tackling a feast. Here's another quip. Why didn't Athena bring her loom? Too much sparkle for mortal eyes. You smirk, but the mood in the hut is shifting. The women are winding down, their voices softer, the wine jug nearly empty. You feel Athena's focus lock in, her decision made. She's chosen this group, or maybe just one of them, to start her teaching. You're not sure who yet, but the anticipation is electric, like the moment before a storm. The youngest woman yawns, her spindle rolling to a stop, and you wonder if Athena's waiting for the perfect moment to step out of the shadows. You settle into the scene, the hut's warmth and the women's quiet chatter pulling you deeper. The starry hum is gone, but Athena's presence is stronger than ever, a steady pulse tying you to her mission. The village outside is asleep, its goats and broken looms forgotten for now. You're right here, in this flickering hut, where a goddess is about to change the game for a handful of mortals. You let the moment sink in, ready to see how Athena makes her move. You're inside that dimly lit hut in the Greek village, the air warm with the scent of olive oil and wool, the flicker of lamps painting shadows on the mud brick walls. The four women from last section are still at their looms, though the youngest has nodded off, her spindle limp in her lap. You're leaning against the wall, the rough texture biting into your shoulder, feeling Athena's presence like a steady hum, stronger now, almost tangible. She's not invisible anymore. You blink, and there she is, standing in the doorway, not as a glowing goddess, but as a mortal woman, her gray eyes sharp under a plain woolen cloak. The weavers don't notice her yet, too caught up in their tangled threads, but you're wide awake, heart thumping as Athena begins her first loom lesson. You're about to try threading her loom under her guidance, and trust me, it's not as easy as it sounds. Picture yourself edging closer, your cloak catching on a stray reed. Athena steps into the hut, her movements quiet but deliberate, like a teacher who knows the room's already hers. The woman with calloused hands glances up, squinting, but doesn't question the stranger. Athena kneels beside her loom, her fingers brushing the lumpy warp threads. "Try this," she says, her voice low, almost a whisper, as she adjusts the tension with a flick of her wrist. You're stunned. It's so simple, but the threads suddenly lie flat, obedient. The woman gasps, and you're right there with her, itching to try it yourself. Athena's not just teaching, she's pulling you into the rhythm of the loom, making you feel its pulse. Here's a fact to ground us. Weaving in ancient Greece relied on vertical looms with weighted warp threads, a technique refined by the 6th century BCE, often credited to divine inspiration in myths like Athena's teachings. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some stories claim Athena's first lesson included a secret knot, called the owl's twist, that made cloth stronger but was forgotten by later generations. You grin, picturing her owl perched in the rafters, nodding approval as she ties it. Historians still argue whether Athena's role in weaving was a metaphor for her wisdom or a literal divine intervention in mortal crafts. You're handed a loom now. Don't ask how. It's just there, wobbly but sturdy enough. Athena's watching, her eyes glinting with what might be amusement. You fumble the shuttle, a smooth wooden piece that feels heavier than it looks, and try to thread it through the warp. It snags immediately, and you hear a soft chuckle from the braided woman across the hut. "Like this," Athena says, guiding your hands without touching them. Her fingers mime the motion, over, under, pull, and you copy her, slowly, your clumsy movements smoothing out. It's hypnotic, like rocking a boat on a calm sea. You're weaving, sort of, and it feels like a small miracle. The other women are trying too, their looms creaking less, their threads starting to align. Time for a joke. Why did Athena's loom lesson rock? It had all the right weave length. Okay, you're probably not laughing, but you're focused, your hands moving faster now. The hut's alive with quiet energy, lamps flickering, looms humming, the women exchanging wide-eyed looks as their cloth starts to look decent. You glance at Athena, who's moved to the youngest weaver, gently nudging her spindle back into motion. There's no divine glow, no fanfare, just a woman teaching with unnatural patience. You're starting to see her plan from that starry blueprint. Start small, build trust. Let the mortals think they're figuring it out themselves. The air smells sharper now, like fresh dye and cedar. You pause, your shuttle stuck again, and notice the older woman's cloth taking shape. A simple pattern, but it holds together. You're proud of her, and maybe a little jealous. Athena catches your eye, and you swear she winks, like she knows you're struggling but won't let you quit. You try again, the shuttle gliding better this time, and feel a spark of her divine clarity. It's not just about the loom, it's about focus, about turning chaos into order. You're getting it, and so are the women, their chatter softening as they fall into the loom's rhythm. Here's another quip. Why was Athena a great teacher? She never loomed over anyone. You smirk, wiping sweat from your brow. The hut feels smaller now, the lamps dimmer, but the energy's electric. You're weaving a lumpy strip of cloth, nothing fancy, but it's yours. The women are murmuring, comparing their work, and you realize Athena's done more than fix their threads. She's given them hope. You glance at her, still kneeling by the braided woman's loom, and wonder how long she'll stay. The village outside is quiet, the goats asleep, but in here, a revolution's starting, one thread at a time. You settle back, your loom creaking under your hands, and let the moment sink in. Athena's lesson is just beginning, but you're already hooked. your fingers itching to keep going. The starry hum from her cosmic loom feels distant now, but its echo lives in this hut, in the clack of shuttles and the soft gasps of progress. You're ready to see what's next, as Athena's teaching takes root. You're still in that warm, lamplit hut in the Greek village, the air thick with the scent of wool and fresh dye, the soft clack of looms filling the space like a heartbeat. Your hands are sore from wrestling your own loom, that wobbly frame you somehow managed to thread under Athena's quiet guidance last section. The cloth you've woven is lumpy, sure, but it's holding together, and you're weirdly proud of it. The four women around you, the calloused one, the braided one, the older one, and the sleepy youngest, are no longer cursing their tools. Their looms hum with new rhythm, their fingers moving with a confidence that wasn't there before. You're watching a miracle unfold, not the flashy kind, but the slow, satisfying kind. These villagers' clumsy hands are turning deft, and Athena's right there, her mortal disguise still holding, nudging them toward mastery. You're caught up in it, marveling at how fast they're learning. Picture yourself sitting cross-legged now, your loom balanced on your knees, as you sneak glances at the others. The woman with calloused hands, who you're starting to think of as the group's unofficial leader, is weaving a strip of cloth so smooth it could pass for a merchant's wares. Her eyes are wide, like she can't believe it's her own work. The braided woman's not far behind, her fingers dancing through the warp threads with a speed that makes you jealous. Even the youngest, now awake and blinking sleepily, is managing a decent pattern, her spindle spinning without wobbling for the first time. You try to keep up, your shuttle sliding through the threads, but you're distracted by the transformation around you. Athena's teaching isn't just technical. It's like she's woven confidence into their bones. Here's a fact to keep us grounded. By the 6th century BCE, Greek weaving had advanced enough to produce complex textiles, like the peplos, a draped garment often dedicated to Athena during festivals like the Panathenaea. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some myths claim Athena's lessons included a rhythmic chant to help weavers keep time, a sort of ancient work song that doubled as a prayer to her. You imagine the women humming it now, though you don't hear anything but their soft murmurs. Historians still argue whether Athena's teaching was a one-time divine gift or an ongoing influence, with some saying her presence lingered in every skilled weaver's hands. You shift on the hut's dirt floor, a stray reed poking your thigh, and focus on the scene. Athena's moving between the looms, her plain cloak brushing the ground, her voice low as she offers small corrections. "Tighter here," she tells the older woman, who nods without looking up. You're struck by how normal she seems. No glowing aura, no owl flapping dramatically. Just a teacher, patient but firm, like she's done this 1,000 times. You try her latest trick, looping the weft thread twice before pulling, and your cloth starts to look less like a goat's breakfast. You grin, feeling a spark of her divine clarity, and wonder if the women feel it too. They must, because their work is bordering on art now, their looms singing instead of creaking. Time for a joke. Why did the weavers love Athena? She spun their skills into gold. Okay, you're probably not chuckling, but you're caught up in the hut's energy. The lamps are burning low, casting golden flickers on the walls, and the air feels alive, like the looms are breathing. You notice the youngest woman's cloth now has a tiny zigzag pattern, her first attempt at design. You want to cheer, but you stay quiet, not wanting to break the spell. Athena glances at her, and you swear there's a flicker of pride in those gray eyes. This isn't just about cloth anymore. It's about creation, about mortals touching something divine. The scent of cedar and dye grows stronger, mixing with the earthy warmth of the hut. You pause, your shuttle stuck for the 100th time, and watch the braided woman help the older one adjust her loom's weights. They're teaching each other now, Athena's lessons rippling outward. You're starting to see her plan from that starry blueprint back in Olympus. Empower a few, and they'll spread the skill themselves. It's brilliant, and you're a little in awe of how she's pulling it off without anyone realizing she's a goddess. You try weaving again, your hands steadier, and feel a rhythm settle in, like you're part of the hut's pulse. Here's another quip. Why did Athena stay so calm? She had a loom to keep her grounded. You smirk, wiping sweat from your brow. The women are chatting softly now, comparing their cloth, their voices tinged with wonder. You catch the calloused woman's eye, and she nods at your lumpy strip, like you're part of the crew. You're not sure how long Athena will stay, but her work's already taking root. The village outside is still asleep, its goats and broken looms forgotten. But in here, something new is being woven. Skill, pride, maybe even a legacy. You let the moment sink in, your hands moving with the loom's rhythm, ready to see how far this goes. You're still in that warm hut, the air heavy with wool and lamp oil, the loom's steady clack wrapping you in a cocoon of sound. Your own loom sits quiet now, your lumpy cloth abandoned as you lean against the mud brick wall, watching the four women weave with their newfound skill. The calloused woman's cloth is practically professional. The braided one's fingers fly like they've done this forever, and even the youngest is adding tiny flourishes to her pattern. Athena, still disguised as a mortal, hovers near the older woman's loom, her gray eyes glinting with what might be satisfaction. But the hut's cozy bubble is about to burst. You feel a shift in the air, a salty tang cutting through the cedar and dye, and you know trouble's coming. Up on Olympus, the gods have noticed Athena's meddling, and Poseidon, of all deities, is grumbling loud enough to stir the seas. You're about to overhear his complaints, and trust me, he's not thrilled about Athena's mortal fan club. Picture yourself tensing, the hut's warmth suddenly feeling too close. You're not sure how you know Poseidon's upset. Maybe it's that divine prickle from Athena's starry loom, still echoing in your bones. But you sense the god's attention turning earthward. The women keep weaving, oblivious, their laughter soft as they compare patterns. Athena's calm, adjusting a thread on the youngest's loom, but you catch a flicker in her posture, like she's bracing for a storm. You're pulled upward, not physically, but in that dreamy way, your vision blurring until you're back in Olympus, perched on a misty cloud. The golden hall from the council meeting gleams, but the mood's sour. Poseidon's pacing, his trident tapping the marble floor, waves crashing somewhere in his aura. She's meddling again, he growls, glaring at no one in particular. Here's a fact to anchor us. In Greek mythology, gods often clashed over their influence on mortals, with Poseidon and Athena famously rivaling each other, like in their contest for Athens' patronage around the 5th century BCE myths. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some obscure tales claim Poseidon once tried weaving to mock Athena, only to tangle his trident in the threads and rage quit. You grin, picturing him sulking as his attempt at a fishnet unraveled. Historians still argue whether these divine spats were symbolic of cultural tensions or just poetic drama to explain why gods cared about mortal crafts. You shift on the cloud, its damp chill seeping into your cloak, and tune into Poseidon's rant. Athena's down there, teaching them to weave like they're her pets, he snaps, seaweed hair dripping onto the floor. Zeus, lounging on his throne, looks half asleep, but Hera's listening, her eyes sharp. What's next? Mortals building ships to rival mine? Poseidon's not wrong to worry. Better weaving means better sails, and that's his turf. You glance at Athena's empty spot in the hall, her owl perched on a pillar, blinking innocently. You're starting to see the stakes. Athena's not just teaching a craft. She's shifting mortal power, and Poseidon's ego is taking a hit. You wonder if she knew this would ruffle feathers or if she just didn't care. Time for a joke. Why was Poseidon so salty? Athena's looms were making waves. Okay, you're probably not chuckling, but it fits as you watch him storm around, his trident sparking. Hera chimes in, her voice silky but pointed. Let her play teacher. Mortals will still pray to us for storms and harvests. You're not sure if she's calming things down or stirring the pot, but Zeus just yawns, clearly over it. You're caught up in the tension, your breath slowing as you realize Athena's work in that hut is bigger than you thought. She's not just helping a few weavers, she's challenging the divine status quo, and Poseidon's ready to make it her problem. The hall's glow dims, the air tasting of salt and ozone. You lean forward, cloud damp under your palms, and catch Apollo smirking in the corner, strumming his lyre like he's enjoying the drama. She's bold, he murmurs, and you nod, thinking of Athena's quiet focus in the hut. You're pulled back to the village now, the golden hall fading, but Poseidon's grumbling lingers. You're outside the hut again, the night air cool, the women's looms still humming inside. Athena's there, guiding the braided woman's shuttle, but you wonder if she senses the divine backlash brewing. The starry hum from her loom is faint, almost drowned out by a distant crash of waves. Here's another quip. Why didn't Poseidon weave? His threads kept getting too wet. You smirk, settling into the village's rhythm. The women are unaware of the godly spat, their cloth growing smoother by the minute. You're rooting for them, but Poseidon's anger feels like a storm cloud on the horizon. Athena's playing a risky game, and you're right there, caught between the hut's warmth and the gods' chilly egos, ready to see how she handles the fallout. You're back in the Greek village, standing outside the hut where the four women are weaving, their looms humming like a soft lullaby under the starlit sky. The air carries the familiar scent of wool and cedar, but there's a new energy now, a ripple of change spreading beyond this one hut. You're not focused on Athena's disguised figure inside, guiding the braided woman's shuttle, or the calloused woman's smooth cloth. Instead, you're noticing the village waking up to something bigger. The skill Athena's teaching is catching like wildfire, spreading from this hut to other homes, other looms, across ancient Greek towns. You're about to witness weaving ripple outward, transforming not just cloth, but lives. And you can't help but feel the weight of it, like a thread pulling you along. Picture yourself wandering the village's dusty paths, your cloak brushing past piles of unspun wool left by doorways. It's dawn now, the sky a soft pink, and you hear the clack of looms from other huts. The women from last night must have talked, words out about the stranger who fixed their threads. You pause by a low wall, watching a new group of weavers, men and women, copying the techniques Athena taught. Their looms are still wobbly, but the cloth is tighter, the patterns bolder. A girl, maybe the sister of the youngest from the hut, is teaching her neighbor how to loop the weft twice, just like Athena showed. You grin, amazed at how fast it's spreading, like a song everyone suddenly knows the words to. Here's a fact to ground us. By the 7th century BCE, weaving had become so vital in Greece that entire economies relied on textiles. with women's household production fueling trade in places like Athens and Corinth. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some myths claim Athena's weaving lessons inspired a thread-sharing ritual, where weavers passed a single spool of wool between villages as a symbol of her gift. You imagine that spool traveling now, tying towns together. Historians still argue whether Athena's influence on weaving sparked a cultural shift toward valuing women's crafts, or was just a mythic nod to an already thriving skill. You move on, the village buzzing with early morning chatter. You spot a man, his hands rough from hauling nets, trying a loom for the first time, his wife chuckling as he fumbles. "It's not fishing," she teases, and you laugh too. Joke number one. Why did the fisherman weave? To net a better tunic. Okay, you're probably not rolling, but the scene's warm, alive. The skill's not just staying in huts, it's hitting the streets, the markets. You pass a stall where a woman's selling cloth with a simple zigzag pattern, the kind the youngest weaver was practicing. It's not perfect, but it's strong, and the buyer's impressed, haggling with a smile. You're starting to see Athena's plan in action. One hut, one lesson, and now a whole village is weaving better. The air grows warmer, the sun climbing, and you follow the path to a neighboring town. The ripples reached here too. You see looms set up in courtyards, kids spinning spindles while elders nod approval. The cloth is smoother, the dyes brighter, and you swear you hear that starry hum from Athena's loom, faint but present, tying it all together. You're struck by the scale. Athena didn't just teach a craft. She's reshaping how these people live, trade, even think. You imagine her back in the hut, still disguised, hearing whispers of her work spreading. Does she smile? You bet she does, though probably with that sharp, knowing edge. You pause by a stream, the water glinting like the threads on her cosmic loom, and watch a group of women shushing newly woven cloth. They're laughing, comparing patterns, and you feel a pang of pride for them. But there's a shadow, too. Poseidon's grumbling from last section lingers in your mind. You wonder if he's watching this, his trident twitching as better sails start showing up on Greek ships. Another quip. Why did Poseidon hate weavers? Their sails were stealing his sea cred. You smirk, but the thought sticks. Athena's gift is a power shift, and not everyone's happy about it. The village behind you hums with activity, looms clacking, voices rising. You're caught up in the momentum, your breath sinking with the rhythm of creation. The starry hum is softer now, but it's everywhere. In the cloth, the chatter, the pride in these mortals' hands. You're not sure how far this will spread, but you know Athena's watching, her plan unfolding like a perfect tapestry. You turn back toward the hut, wondering how she'll keep this going without the gods or the mortals pushing back. You're back in the heart of the Greek village, the morning sun warming the dusty paths as the clack of looms spills from every hut. The air smells of wool and fresh dye, with a hint of olive oil from nearby presses. You're standing outside the hut where Athena first taught those 4 women, but she's not inside anymore. You feel her presence nearby, though, like a steady pulse, as if she's watching from the shadows. The weaving revolution you saw spreading last section is in full swing. Cloth is smoother, patterns bolder, and villagers are trading tips like they've been at this for years. But now, Athena's stepping back, letting her work take root. You're about to learn the rules she's setting, a divine code to ensure mortals respect the loom and the craft she's gifted them. This isn't just about weaving, it's about discipline, reverence, and keeping her legacy untangled. Picture yourself slipping into a crowded courtyard, where a group of weavers, men, women, even a few kids, has gathered around a sturdy new loom, its frame polished and strung tight. The calloused woman from the hut, now something of a local expert, is demonstrating Athena's double-loop weft trick. You lean in, your cloak brushing a pile of dyed wool, and notice a shift in the mood. There's a seriousness here, a quiet awe. The braided woman, standing nearby, speaks up, her voice firm. "This craft isn't ours to waste. The stranger said to honor it." You realize Athena's been whispering more than techniques. She's laid down a code, a set of rules to keep weaving sacred. You're curious, maybe a little intimidated, as you try to piece them together. Here's a fact to ground us. In ancient Greece, weaving was often tied to religious rituals, with textiles offered to gods like Athena during festivals like the Panathenea, where her statue was draped with a woven peplos, as noted in 5th century BCE records. Now, for the quirky tidbit, some myths claim Athena's rules included never weaving at night, lest the threads attract mischievous spirits who'd tangle them. You grin, glancing at the sunlit courtyard. Nobody's risking that curse today. Historians still argue whether these rules were divine mandates or practical guidelines to ensure quality and respect for the craft. You settle on a low bench, the wood warm under your palms, and listen as the braided woman recites what sounds like Athena's code. First, always clean the loom before starting, to show respect for the craft. You nod, thinking of the starry loom you glimpsed, its threads pristine. Second, never boast about your skill, or you'll invite divine envy. You wince, remembering Poseidon's grumbling. Nobody needs more godly grudges. Third, teach others, but only those who show patience. You glance at a kid nearby, his spindle wobbling, and hope he makes the cut. The rules feel simple but heavy, like they're woven into the cloth itself, binding the weavers to something bigger. Time for a joke. Why did Athena set rules? To keep mortals from unraveling her patience. Okay, you're probably not laughing, but it fits as you watch the courtyard's focused energy. The weavers are nodding, some whispering the rules like a prayer. You spot the youngest from the hut, her zigzag-patterned cloth now a point of pride, carefully folding it as if it's sacred. You're starting to get it. Athena's not just teaching a skill, she's building a tradition, a way to keep her gift alive without her hovering. You try the double loop trick on a practice loom nearby, your fingers clumsy but learning, and feel a spark of her order in the motion. The air grows heavier, scented with dye and sun-warmed wool. You notice the older woman from the hut, her gnarled hands steady as she inspects a neighbor's cloth, enforcing the clean loom rule with a stern look. It's working. The courtyard's looms are spotless, the weaver's movements deliberate. You're impressed, but there's a prickle of unease. These rules are strict, and you wonder what happens if someone breaks them. You imagine Athena's gray eyes, sharp and unforgiving, watching from wherever she's hiding. The starry hum from her loom is faint now, but it's in the courtyard's rhythm, the clack of shuttles, the murmur of rules. Here's another quip. Why was Athena's code tough? She didn't want any loose threads. You smirk, but the mood's serious. The weavers are committed, their cloth piling up in neat stacks, ready for trade or offerings. You're caught up in their reverence, your breath slowing as you realize Athena's gift comes with strings attached, literally. The village is transforming, not just in skill, but in mindset, and you're right there, feeling the weight of her rules settle over you like a well-woven cloak. You glance toward the hut, wondering if Athena's still nearby, ready to enforce her code or let the mortals carry it forward. You're standing in this bustling courtyard of the Greek village, the midday sun baking the earth and filling the air with the scent of warm wool and fresh dye. The looms clack steadily, a rhythm you're starting to find soothing, as weavers, men, women, and kids, work with the skills Athena taught. The rules you heard last section, her divine code about clean looms and humble hearts, hang over the scene like an invisible thread, keeping everyone focused. But something's shifting. You notice a new energy in the crowd, a spark of confidence that's tipping into something else. The weavers aren't just skilled now. They're proud, maybe too proud. You're about to spot mortals boasting about their cloth, their voices loud with swagger, and it's clear Athena's gift is stirring egos as much as it's weaving tunics. Picture yourself weaving through the courtyard, your cloak snagging on a pile of brightly dyed wool. The calloused woman from the hut is showing off a bolt of cloth so smooth it catches the sunlight, her chest puffed out as she declares it better than anything from Corinth. A small crowd claps, but you catch a few eye rolls from other weavers. Nearby, the braided woman's at it too, bragging that her zigzag pattern could grace Athena's own temple. You grin, she's not wrong, but the boast feels risky, like tempting a storm after Poseidon's grumbling a few sections back. The youngest weaver, still clutching her patterned cloth, looks uneasy, whispering to the older woman about that rule against pride. You feel it too, a prickle of tension, like Athena's gray eyes might be watching. Here's a fact to ground us. In ancient Greece, skilled weavers could gain significant status, with some, like those crafting festival robes for Athena, earning public honor, as seen in 5th century BCE Athenian records. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some myths warn that boasting about weaving invited Athena's wrath, with tales of mortals turned into moths for claiming their cloth outshone hers. You glance at the calloused woman's smug smile and hope she's not headed for wings. Historians still argue whether these stories were meant to enforce humility or to explain why weaving remained a sacred, tightly regulated craft. You settle on a stone bench, the heat seeping through your cloak, and watch the boasting escalate. A young man, his hands stained with indigo, holds up a tunic and crows that it's fit for Zeus himself. The crowd laughs, but you wince, remembering Athena's rule about divine envy. You try to focus on your own practice loom, threading the shuttle like she taught. But the courtyard's too loud now, voices overlapping, each weaver trying to outshine the last. It's not everyone. The older woman's quiet, her cloth neatly folded, and the youngest keeps her head down. But the swagger's spreading, and you can't help wondering if Athena's still around, disguised or not, hearing every word. That starry hum from her loom feels distant, drowned out by the chatter. Time for a joke. Why did weavers boast? They thought their cloth was a cut above. Okay, you're probably not chuckling, but it fits as you watch a kid spin a spindle so fast, it's more show than skill. The pride's infectious, and you get it. These people went from snapping reeds to weaving like pros. You're tempted to cheer them on, but that rule about humility nags at you. You notice a woman in the corner, her cloth as good as the calloused woman's but unshone, her lips pressed tight. She's following Athena's code, and you respect her for it, even if the loudmouths are stealing the spotlight. The air grows thicker, the sun high and relentless. You wipe sweat from your brow and catch a faint shift. A breeze, maybe, or something divine. You imagine Athena nearby, her owl perched on a roof, taking notes. The boasting's not just talk. It's a challenge, a test of her rules. You glance at the calloused woman, now comparing her cloth to the braided woman's, their voices sharp. It's not a fight, not yet, but it's close, and you feel the weight of what's coming. Pride like this doesn't go unnoticed, not when a goddess is involved. You try weaving again, your shuttle moving smoother now, but your eyes keep drifting to the crowd, waiting for a sign. Here's another quip. Why was pride dangerous? It unraveled Athena's patience. You smirk, but the courtyard's energy is teetering, part celebration, part recklessness. The weaver's skills are undeniable, their cloth stacking up in vibrant piles, but the boasting feels like a loose thread, ready to snag. You're caught in the moment, your breath sinking with the loom's rhythm, but there's a shadow too, a sense that Athena's gift might come with a price for those who forget her rules. You lean back, the stone bench grounding you, ready to see who pushes their luck too far. You're still in the sun-soaked courtyard of the Greek village, the air buzzing with the clack of looms and the sharp scent of wool and dye. The boasting from last section hasn't died down. If anything, it's louder, with weavers waving their cloth like victory flags. You're perched on your stone bench, your practice loom forgotten as you watch the crowd's energy tilt from pride to outright swagger. But your attention snags on a new figure weaving through the chaos. A young woman, her hands quick and her cloth flawless, drawing murmurs from even the loudest braggarts. This is Arachne, a weaver whose skill rivals Athena's own, and you're about to meet her as she steps into the spotlight, her talent shining brighter than the midday sun. You feel a prickle, like Athena's starry loom is humming again, warning you this moment's about to change everything. Picture yourself leaning forward, your cloak sticking to the warm bench, as Arachne sets up her loom in the courtyard's center. She's not loud like the calloused woman, or showy like the braided one. Her movements are precise, almost serene, as she threads her loom with a grace that makes your clumsy attempts feel like a goat's handiwork. Her cloth, even half-finished, is stunning. Patterns of vines and stars woven so tightly, you'd swear they glow. The crowd quiets, even the boastful young man with the indigo-stained hands, as Arachne's shuttle dances. You're mesmerized, but there's a knot in your chest. You remember Athena's rule against pride, and Arachne's skill, while quiet, feels like a challenge to the goddess herself. Here's a fact to ground us. Arachne's story, as told in Ovid's Metamorphoses from the 1st century CE, is one of the most famous Greek myths about weaving, highlighting the tension between mortal talent and divine authority. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some lesser-known tales claim Arachne learned weaving from a nymph trained by Athena, giving her an edge no other mortal had. You glance at her steady hands and wonder if it's true. She's too good, almost otherworldly. Historians still argue whether Arachne was a cautionary tale against hubris, or a symbol of human potential pushing too close to the divine. You shift, the bench's heat making you restless, and watch Arachne's crowd grow. The youngest weaver from the hut, her zigzag cloth clutched tight, stares with wide eyes, like she's seeing a hero. You get it. Arachne's not just weaving, she's performing. Her loom an extension of her will. The calloused woman mutters, half jealous, half awed, she's better than the stranger. You wince knowing the stranger is Athena and hope she's not lurking nearby. You try to spot her, scanning for a plain cloak or an owl's glint, but the courtyard's too packed. The starry hum is back, faint but sharp, and you're sure Athena's watching, her gray eyes narrowing at this mortal who's stealing her thunder. Time for a joke. Why was Arachne's cloth so good? She had a real spin for it. Okay, you're probably not laughing, but it lightens the tension as you watch her work. The crowd's murmurs turn to gasps as Arachne weaves a scene, a ship on a stormy sea, so vivid you swear you smell salt. You're drawn in, your breath catching, but that knot in your chest tightens. She's not boasting with words, not like the others, but her skill screams confidence, maybe defiance. You remember Poseidon's grumbling about Athena's meddling. Arachne's talent could stir more divine egos than his. You wonder if she knows the risk, or if she's too lost in her loom's rhythm. The air grows heavier, the sun relentless, and you wipe sweat from your brow. The braided woman, usually loud, is quiet now, her own cloth looking plain next to Arachne's. You feel the courtyard's mood shift, admiration tinged with unease. The older woman from the hut, ever cautious, whispers to the youngest about Athena's rules, her eyes flicking to Arachne. You're starting to see the danger, not just for her, but for everyone caught in her shine. You try weaving a few threads on your loom, hoping to stay grounded, but your hands shake. Arachne's too good, and in this world, that's not always safe. Here's another quip. Why did Arachne stand out? Her threads were practically divine. You smirk, but the starry hum grows louder, syncing with your pulse. Arachne's loom keeps singing, her cloth a masterpiece, and you're torn between awe and dread. The crowd's holding its breath, and you are too, waiting for Athena to react. You glance at the sky, half expecting her owl to swoop down, but it's just blue, endless, and heavy with what's coming. You're right there, in the heart of the courtyard. As Arachne's talent lights a fuse you know will spark trouble. You're still in the sun-baked courtyard of the Greek village, the air thick with the scent of wool and sweat. The crowd's murmurs buzzing around Arachne's flawless loom. Her cloth, woven with scenes of stormy seas and starry vines, has everyone, including you, spellbound. Your own lumpy practice cloth forgotten on the bench. The clack of other looms has slowed, the calloused woman and braided one staring as Arachne's shuttle dances with impossible grace. You're caught in her rhythm, but that starry hum from Athena's loom, pulsing faintly in your chest, feels sharper now, like a warning. Athena's back, and she's not in her plain cloak anymore. You're about to see her test Arachne, disguised as an old woman, her gray eyes glinting with something that's not quite anger, yet. You're holding your breath, knowing this moment could unravel everything. Picture yourself edging closer to Arachne's loom, your cloak brushing a stack of dyed wool. The crowd parts slightly, and there she is, an old woman stooped, her face lined like cracked clay, leaning on a gnarled staff. Nobody else notices, but you do. It's Athena, her divine aura tucked away, but her eyes sharp as spear points. She shuffles toward Arachne, her voice raspy as she asks, "Child, who taught you to weave so well?" Arachne barely looks up, her fingers never slowing. "No one," she says, calm but firm. "It's my gift." You wince, feeling the crowd tense. The youngest weaver, clutching her zigzag cloth, glances at the older woman, who shakes her head. You're frozen, watching Athena's disguise hold, but those eyes, they're sizing Arachne up, testing her. Here's a fact to ground us. In Ovid's Metamorphoses, Athena's disguise as an old woman to confront Arachne is a classic mythic trope, reflecting Greek beliefs about gods testing mortal humility, common in 5th century BCE stories. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some versions of the tale say Athena's staff was carved with an owl, a subtle hint Arachne missed. You scan the staff now, spotting a faint owl shape, and your stomach twists. Historians still argue whether Athena's test was meant to teach Arachne humility or to bait her into a trap for her pride. You shift, the bench's heat seeping through your cloak, and watch Arachne weave on. Oblivious to the goddess in her midst, the old woman, Athena, circles slowly, her staff tapping the ground. "Fine work," she says, her voice dry. "But surely you owe thanks to the goddess who guides all looms." Arachne's shuttle pauses, just for a heartbeat, and you lean forward, pulse racing. "I owe nothing," she replies, her tone not loud, but cutting. "My hands made this, not some goddess." The crowd gasps, and you feel that starry hum spike like a lute string snapping. You want to shout, "Stop!" But you're just a bystander, caught in the moment as Athena's lips twitch, amusement or anger you can't tell. Time for a joke. Why did Athena go incognito? To weave a sneaky test. Okay, you're probably not chuckling, but it fits as you watch her play her part. The courtyard's air feels heavier, the sun too bright. The calloused woman mutters something about bad omens, and you agree. This is heading somewhere dangerous. Arachne keeps weaving, her cloth now showing a mountain under moonlight, so vivid you swear you smell pine. You're torn between awe and dread, knowing Athena's not here to admire. She's probing, pushing, waiting for Arachne to cross a line. You glance at the youngest weaver, her eyes wide, and wish you could warn her to warn Arachne. The scent of dye and wool grows sharper, mixing with the courtyard's dust. You try to focus on your loom, threading a shaky weft, but your eyes are glued to Athena. She asks another question, her voice softer now. "Could you surpass even Athena's skill?" The crowd goes dead silent, and you hold your breath. Arachne lifts her chin, her gaze steady. "I could," she says, not boasting, but stating a fact. You cringe, feeling the starry hum turn cold, like a storm rolling in. Athena's disguise doesn't crack, but her staff taps harder, and you swear the owl carving glints. You're starting to see her plan, not just to test, but to measure how far Arachne's pride will take her. Here's another quip. Why was Athena's disguise perfect? Nobody expects a goddess to nag. You smirk, but the tension's thick. The braided woman steps back, her own cloth forgotten, and the older woman whispers a prayer under her breath. Arachne's loom keeps singing, her fingers untouchable, but you know she's walked into something she can't unweave. You're right there. The courtyard's heat pressing in, as Athena's test builds to a breaking point. The starry hum is a low thrum now, tying you to the moment, and you're ready to what I buns when a mortal claims to outshine a goddess. You're still in the sweltering courtyard of the Greek village, the air thick with dust, wool, and the sharp tang of dye. Arachne's loom hums in the center, her flawless cloth, now woven with moonlit mountains and starry vines, drawing every eye. The crowd's murmurs have gone silent, their awe cut by a chill you feel in your bones. You're perched on your stone bench, your own lumpy cloth abandoned, as Athena, disguised as the old woman with the owl-carved staff, stands just steps from Arachne. You're reeling from Arachne's bold claim that she could outshine Athena herself. Her words, "I could," hang in the air like a dropped shuttle, and you're cringing, knowing she's crossed a line. You're about to witness Arachne's boast offend Athena, and the starry hum from that cosmic loom, pulsing faintly, feels like a warning of divine trouble brewing. Picture yourself frozen, your cloak sticking to the bench as the courtyard holds its breath. Arachne's back at her loom, her fingers steady, but her chin's still high, her "I could" echoing in your head. The old woman, Athena, leans closer, her staff tapping softly, her raspy voice now edged with ice. "You think your hands rival a goddess's?" she asks, loud enough for the crowd to hear. Arachne doesn't flinch. "I don't think," she says, her voice clear, not loud but piercing. "I know my cloth is better than hers." You gasp, and the crowd does too. The calloused woman stepping back, the youngest weaver clutching her zigzag cloth like a shield. You feel the starry hum spike, cold and sharp, as Athena's gray eyes flash under her disguise. Here's a fact to ground us. In Ovid's Metamorphoses, Arachne's hubris, claiming superiority over Athena, is a classic Greek sin or hybris, often punished harshly in myths from the 5th century BCE onward. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some obscure stories say Arachne's boast was overheard by Athena's owl, which flew to Olympus to snitch, speeding up the goddess's wrath. You glance up, half expecting to spot that owl now, but the sky's just a relentless blue. Historians still argue whether Arachne's defiance was meant to warn against pride or to celebrate human skill, even if it came at a cost. You shift, the bench's heat burning through your cloak, and watch Athena's disguise hold, though her posture's stiffer, her staff gripped tighter. The crowd's uneasy. The braided woman whispers to the older one, their eyes darting between Arachne and the old woman. You want to shout, "She's Athena, stop her!" But you're stuck, a bystander in this unfolding drama. Arachne keeps weaving, her shuttle flying, adding a new scene to her cloth. A golden owl in flight, so vivid you swear it could take wing. It's beautiful, but you cringe harder, knowing it's a direct jab at Athena's symbol. The starry hum turns jagged, like a snapped thread, and you feel the goddess's patience unraveling. Time for a joke. Why did Arachne push it? She wanted to weave her own fate. Okay, you're probably not laughing, but it fits as you watch her defiance. The courtyard feels smaller, the air too heavy, like a storm's about to break. The youngest weaver tugs the older woman's sleeve, whispering about Athena's rule against boasting, but Arachne's beyond rules now. "If Athena's so great," she says, not looking up, "let her prove it. My loom's ready." You choke on your breath, and the crowd murmurs, some in awe, others in fear. Athena's lips twitch, not a smile, but something colder. You're sure she's done testing. This is personal now. The scent of wool and dye grows sharper, mixing with the courtyard's dust. You try to focus on your loom, your hands shaking as you thread a weft, but it's useless. Arachne's cloth is a masterpiece, each stitch a challenge, and Athena's standing right there, her disguise barely holding. You glance at the calloused woman, her face pale, and the braided one, her own cloth forgotten. They know something's wrong, even if they don't see the goddess yet. You feel the starry hum like a pulse in your chest, tying you to this moment. Athena steps closer to Arachne, her staff silent now, and you know what's coming. A confrontation, not with words, but with looms. Here's another quip. Why was Arachne's boast bad? It loomed too large for Athena. You smirk, but the tension's suffocating. The crowd's split, some cheering Arachne's nerve, others backing away. sensing divine trouble. You're caught in the middle, your eyes locked on Athena's disguised figure, waiting for her to drop the act. Arachne's loom keeps singing, her fingers untouchable, but you know she's woven herself into a corner. The starry hum is a low growl now, and you're right there, in the courtyard's heart, as the goddess prepares to answer a mortal's challenge. You're still in the sun-scorched courtyard of the Greek village, the air heavy with wool, dye, and the weight of Arachne's reckless boast. Her claim to outshine Athena herself, "My loom's ready," hangs like a storm cloud, and the crowd's murmurs have turned to nervous whispers. You're perched on your stone bench, your lumpy cloth forgotten, as Athena, still disguised as the old woman with the owl-carved staff, steps closer to Arachne's loom. The starry hum from her cosmic loom, that pulse you've felt since the hillside, is now a steady thrum, syncing with your racing heart. The test is over. Athena's dropping the pretense, and you're about to watch a weaving contest between a mortal and a goddess begin, right here in this dusty courtyard. You're holding your breath, knowing this clash of looms will be unlike anything you've seen. Picture yourself leaning forward, your cloak stuck to the bench's heat, as Athena straightens, her stooped posture gone. The old woman's guise melts away, not in a flash, but like mist burning off under the sun. Her gray eyes blaze, her plain cloak now a shimmering robe, and her staff vanishes, replaced by a spear that gleams like starlight. The crowd gasps, some dropping to their knees, the calloused woman clutching her cloth like a shield. Arachne freezes, her shuttle mid-thread, but her chin stays high. "So you'll prove it?" she says, voice steady but eyes wide. Athena's lips curve, not quite a smile. "Child, you've invited me," she says, and with a gesture, a second loom appears, polished, perfect, its threads glinting like the starry loom you glimpsed ages ago. You're stunned, the courtyard crackling with divine energy as the contest begins. Here's a fact to ground us. In Ovid's Metamorphoses, the weaving contest between Athena and Arachne is a pivotal moment, showcasing both divine power and mortal hubris, a story rooted in Greek values of the 5th century BCE. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some myths say Athena's contest loom was strung with threads spun by the fates, giving her tapestries a prophetic edge. You glance at her loom now, its threads shimmering, and wonder if it's true. Historians still argue whether the contest was Athena's way of teaching humility or a rare moment of her own pride. Challenged by a mortal's skill, you shift, the bench burning your thighs, and watch the looms come alive. Arachne's hands move first, her shuttle flying, weaving that stormy sea from before, now with lightning splitting the sky. Athena's not slow. She's deliberate, her fingers threading with a rhythm that feels like the cosmos itself. Her loom sings, a higher pitch than Arachne's, and you swear you smell ozone like a storm's brewing. The crowd's silent, even the braided woman and youngest weaver too awed to speak. You try to follow both looms, your eyes darting, but it's dizzying. Arachne's cloth grows vivid, ships, waves, a lone figure defying the gods. You wince, knowing she's poking at divine egos again. Athena's tapestry starts to take shape too, but you can't make it out yet. Only flashes of gold and crimson. Time for a joke. Why did Athena compete? She couldn't let Arachne thread the needle. Okay, you're probably not chuckling, but it fits as you watch their duel. The courtyard feels smaller, the air electric, like you're trapped in a bubble of divine and mortal will. You notice the older woman from the hut, her eyes flicking to Athena's spear, whispering a prayer. You get it. This isn't just a contest. It's a judgment. Arachne's weaving faster now, her cloth sprawling with scenes of mortal triumphs over gods, each stitch a defiance. You're impressed, but your stomach twists. She's not just challenging Athena, she's taunting her. The starry hum spikes, almost painful, and you know Athena's not missing a single thread. The scent of wool and dust mixes with something sharper, like metal or magic. You lean closer, your breath shallow, as Athena's tapestry starts to reveal itself. Gods in glory, Zeus enthroned, mortals bowing. It's majestic, but cold, a reminder of divine order. You compare it to Arachne's chaotic, vibrant scenes, and can't decide which is better. The crowd split too. Some murmur at Arachne's nerve, others at Athena's power. You try to stay neutral, your hands gripping the bench, but you're rooting for Arachne just a little, even if it's reckless. The looms clack faster, shuttles blurring, and you feel the starry hum like a heartbeat, tying you to this moment as the contest races toward its end. Here's another quip. Why was the contest tense? Both looms were spinning drama. You smirk, but the air's too heavy for laughter. The youngest weaver's eyes are wide, the calloused woman's face pale. You're right there, in the courtyard's heart, as Athena and Arachne weave their fates, thread by thread. The starry hum is a song now, wild and unstoppable, and you're waiting for the moment one of them claims victory, or something worse. You're still rooted in the sweltering courtyard of the Greek village, the air crackling with the scent of wool, dye, and something electric, like a storm trapped in a bottle. The crowd around you is silent, their eyes darting between Arachne's loom and Athena's, where the weaving contest is hitting its peak. Your stone bench is scorching, your cloak a sweaty burden, but you can't move. You're mesmerized by the tapestries taking shape. Arachne's cloth, vivid with defiant scenes of mortals outwitting gods, sprawls like a rebellion in thread. Athena's, gleaming with divine order, gods enthroned, mortals kneeling, feels like a cosmic command. You're about to admire the intricate, vivid designs of both, your breath shallow as the starry hum from Athena's cosmic loom pulses louder, tying you to this clash of mortal and divine. You know this moment's building to something big, and you're not sure you're ready. Picture yourself leaning forward, the bench's heat forgotten, as Arachne's shuttle blurs. Her tapestry now shows a mortal hero stealing fire from the heavens. The flames so real you swear you smell smoke. Each thread is perfect, her patterns tight yet alive, weaving gods as flawed, jealous, petty, even cruel. You're stunned, not just by the skill, but the nerve. The crowd murmurs, the calloused woman gripping her cloth, the youngest weaver's eyes wide with awe. You glance at Athena, her face unreadable, her loom singing a high, steady note. Her tapestry grows clearer, Zeus in golden glory, Athena herself spearing a titan, mortals offering tribute. It's breathtaking, every stitch precise, the colors glowing like starlight. You feel its power, a reminder of who rules Olympus, but Arachne's work holds your gaze just as fiercely. Here's a fact to ground us. In Ovid's Metamorphoses, the tapestries of Athena and Arachne are described in vivid detail, with Athena's showcasing divine justice and Arachne's depicting divine flaws, reflecting Greek storytelling from the 5th century BCE. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some myths claim Arachne's tapestry included a hidden thread that shimmered only under moonlight, a secret nod to her defiance. You squint at her cloth now, catching a faint glint, and wonder if it's true. Historians still argue whether the tapestries were meant to contrast divine perfection with human creativity or to show that mortal pride could rival the gods, at a cost. You shift, the bench biting your thighs, and try to compare the two. Arachne's scenes are chaotic, vibrant, gods seducing mortals, betraying each other, woven with a raw energy that makes your pulse race. You spot Europa carried off by Zeus as a bull, the waves so vivid you hear them crash. Athena's tapestry, though, is order itself, gods in formation, mortals in neat rows, the colors harmonious but cold. You see her owl woven in gold, its eyes seeming to watch you. Both are flawless, but they're opposites. Arachne's a story of defiance. Athena's a sermon on obedience. You're torn, your hands gripping the bench, as the crowd whispers, some praising Arachne's boldness, others Athena's majesty. You want to cheer for both, but that starry hum, now a wild thrum, warns you this won't end in a tie. Time for a joke. Why were the tapestries so good? They wove everyone into a frenzy. Okay, you're probably not laughing, but it fits the courtyard's fevered energy. The braided woman's frozen, her own cloth limp in her hands, while the older woman mutters a prayer, her eyes on Athena's spear. You feel the tension, like a thread stretched to snapping. Arachne's weaving faster now, adding a final scene, mortals dancing free of divine chains. You admire her guts, but your stomach twists. She's not just competing, she's mocking. Athena's loom slows, her tapestry complete, its edges glowing like a finished constellation. You're caught in the contrast, your breath hitching as you realize the contest's done. But the judgment's just beginning. The air's heavy, scented with wool and something sharper, like ozone. You glance at Arachne, her face calm but defiant, her hands steady as she ties off her final thread. Athena stands still, her gray eyes locked on Arachne's cloth, her spear glinting. The crowd's holding its breath, and you are too, the starry hum pounding in your chest. You try to imagine what's next. Will Athena applaud or explode? The tapestries are done, each a masterpiece, but they're more than cloth now. They're a challenge, a statement, a line drawn in the dust. You're right there, in the courtyard's heart, as the looms fall silent, waiting for the goddess to speak. Here's another quip. Why did the contest stop? The threads ran out of drama. You smirk, but the mood's too heavy. The youngest weaver's trembling, the calloused woman's face pale. You're tied to this moment, the starry hum a song of fate, and you're ready to see how Athena handles a mortal who's woven her equal, or better. You're still in the heart of the Greek village's courtyard, the sun blazing down, the air thick with wool, dust, and the fading echo of loom clacks. The crowd around you is frozen, their eyes darting between Arachne's defiant tapestry, vivid with mortals outwitting gods, and Athena's majestic one, glowing with divine order. You're perched on your scorching stone bench, your lumpy cloth long forgotten, as the starry hum from Athena's cosmic loom pulses like a warning drum in your chest. The contest is over, the loom's silent, but the tension's suffocating. You're about to feel Athena's wrath ignite, her gray eyes blazing as she stares at Arachne's flawless work. This isn't just about weaving anymore. It's about a mortal who's dared to rival a goddess, and you're right there, caught in the spark of divine fury. Picture yourself holding your breath, your cloak stuck to the bench's heat as Athena steps toward Arachne's loom. Her spear glints, her shimmering robe catching the sun, no trace left of the old woman's disguise. Arachne stands tall, her hands steady, her tapestry sprawling with scenes of divine betrayal. Zeus as a swan, Poseidon's storms failing mortals. It's breathtaking, every thread perfect, but you feel the air shift, heavy with something dangerous. Athena's face is calm, too calm, like the sea before a tsunami. "You've woven well," she says, her voice low, but you catch the edge, sharp as her spear. The crowd, the calloused woman, the braided one, the youngest, leans back, sensing trouble. You do too, the starry hum turning cold, like a blade against your skin. Here's a fact to ground us. In Ovid's Metamorphoses, Athena's anger at Arachne's tapestry stems from both its skill and its blasphemous content, a reflection of Greek beliefs about respecting divine authority, common in 5th century BCE myths. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some stories claim Athena's wrath was sparked not just by Arachne's talent, but by a single thread in her tapestry that glowed with mortal defiance, visible only to gods. You squint at Arachne's cloth, catching that faint glint from last section, and your stomach twists. Historians still argue whether Athena's fury was about pride or a deeper fear that mortal skill could challenge divine power. You shift, the bench burning your thighs, and watch Athena circle Arachne's loom, her fingers tracing the air above the cloth. "You mock the gods," she says, her voice now a growl, "and claim your hands surpass mine." Arachne doesn't flinch. "Look at it," she says, gesturing to her tapestry. "It's truth, not mockery." You wince and the crowd gasping, the youngest weaver hiding behind the older one. You want to shout, "Stop!" But you're frozen, the starry hum spiking like a storm's roar. Athena's eyes narrow, and you feel her wrath ignite, not loud, not yet, but a fire building. Her tapestry, with its golden gods and obedient mortals, seems to glow brighter, as if asserting its dominance. But Arachne's holds its own, defiant and alive. Time for a joke. Why was Athena mad? Arachne wove a thread too far. Okay, you're probably not laughing, but it fits as you watch the goddess's spear tap the ground, sparks flying. The courtyard feels smaller, the air electric, like lightning's about to strike. The braided woman whispers, "She's doomed," and you agree, though you're still awed by Arachne's nerve. Her cloth is perfect, better than anything in the village, maybe even Athena's, but that's the problem. You glance at the calloused woman, her face pale, and feel the weight of Athena's rules from earlier. No boasting, no divine envy. Arachne's broken them all, and you're starting to see the cost. The scent of wool and dye mixes with something sharper, like burnt metal. You lean forward, your hands gripping the bench, as Athena stops circling. She faces Arachne, her spear now still, her voice deadly soft. "You've chosen your fate," she says, and you feel the starry hum snap, like a thread cut clean. The crowd's silent, the older woman muttering a prayer, the youngest trembling. You're torn. Arachne's talent is undeniable, her tapestry a masterpiece, but her defiance feels like a fire she can't control. You imagine Athena's starry loom, that cosmic marvel, spinning judgment now, its threads tightening around this moment. You're sure she's about to act, and it won't be kind. Here's another quip. Why did Athena's anger flare? Arachne's cloth was too well spun, You smirk, but the mood's grim. The courtyard's a powder keg, the crowd waiting for Athena's next move. You're right there, your breath shallow, as the goddess raises her hand, not her spear, her fingers curling like she's pulling an invisible thread. Arachne stands firm, her eyes locked on Athena's, and you know this is it. The moment pride meets power. The starry hum is a low wail now, tying you to the courtyard's heart, and you're ready to see what divine wrath looks like when a mortal's tapestry outshines a goddess's. You're still in the sweltering courtyard of the Greek village, the air thick with wool, dust, and the electric sting of divine fury. The crowd around you is silent, their eyes wide as Athena, her shimmering robe and spear glinting in the sun, faces Arachne, whose defiant tapestry, woven with God's betrayals, has just sparked the goddess's wrath. You're perched on your stone bench, your lumpy cloth forgotten, your heart pounding as the starry hum from Athena's cosmic loom turns into a low, mournful wail. Arachne stands tall, her eyes locked on Athena's, her masterpiece cloth a bold challenge. You're about to witness Arachne's fate sealed, her transformation into a spider, and the weight of this moment feels like a thread snapping in your chest. You're right there, caught in the goddess's judgment, and it's as chilling as it is unforgettable. Picture yourself gripping the bench, its heat burning your palms, as Athena raises her hand, fingers curling like she's pulling a thread from the air. Her gray eyes blaze, no longer calm but molten with divine anger. "You've woven your pride," she says, her voice cutting through the courtyard like a blade, "and now it binds you." Arachne doesn't move, doesn't beg, her chin high even as the crowd gasps. You feel the starry hum spike, a jolt that makes your skin prickle. And then it happens. Athena's hand twists, and Arachne's form begins to shimmer, like heat rising from the earth. You blink, and she's shrinking, her arms thinning into delicate legs, her body rounding into something small, dark, and eight-limbed. The crowd screams, the youngest weaver burying her face in the older woman's cloak. But you can't look away. Arachne's a spider now, dangling from a thread of her own cloth, her tapestry untouched, but her humanity gone. Here's a fact to ground us. In Ovid's Metamorphoses, Arachne's transformation into a spider is a punishment for her hubris, a myth from the 1st century CE that explains the origin of spiders and their web weaving, tied to Greek reverence for divine authority. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some lesser-known tales claim Arachne's first web as a spider still carried her defiant patterns, visible only to Athena's owl under moonlight. You glance at the tiny spider now, scuttling across her tapestry, and wonder if it's true. Does that faint glint in her thread hold a trace of her art? Historians still argue whether Athena's punishment was pure vengeance or a twisted gift, letting Arachne weave forever in a new form. You shift, the bench's heat unbearable, and feel the courtyard's air grow heavy, like it's morning. The calloused woman's frozen, her cloth limp in her hands, while the braided woman whispers, "She went too far." You nod, but you're torn. Arachne's talent was unmatched, her tapestry a truth the gods didn't want told. Athena lowers her hand, her spear still glinting, and surveys the crowd. "Let this be a lesson," she says, her voice softer now but no less sharp. "Skill is a gift, but pride cuts the thread." You swallow hard, remembering her rules from the courtyard days ago. No boasting, no divine envy. Arachne broke them all, and now she's a spider, her loom silent, her fate a warning woven into the village's memory. "Time for a joke," Why was Arachne's fate creepy? She got caught in her own web. Okay, you're probably not chuckling, but it fits as you watch the spider Arachne spin a delicate thread, already weaving again. The crowd's dispersing, some praying, others fleeing, the youngest weaver sobbing quietly. You feel the starry hum fade, like a song ending, but its echo lingers in the silence. Athena's tapestry, with its golden gods, still glows, untouched, a reminder of her power. You glance at Arachne's cloth, its stormy seas and defiant mortals as vivid as ever, and wonder if it was worth it. Her skill rivaled a goddess's, but the price, your stomach twists just thinking about it. The scent of wool and dye feels stale now, the courtyard emptying as the sun dips lower. You lean back, your hands trembling, and try to process what you've seen. Athena's wrath was swift, her judgment final, but there's no triumph in her face, just a cold resolve. You imagine her starry loom, spinning this moment into its cosmic threads, a story of pride and punishment. The older woman leads the youngest away, whispering about respecting the gods, while the braided woman lingers, staring at Arachne's tapestry. You're still here, tied to the moment, the spider weaving its tiny web in the loom's shadow, a reminder that Athena's gifts come with strings attached. Here's another quip. Why did Athena transform Arachne? To spin a cautionary tale. You smirk, but the mood's heavy. The courtyard's nearly empty, the loom's quiet, and you're left with the weight of Arachne's fate. You're ready to see what this means for the village, how Athena's lesson shapes the weavers who remain. The starry hum is a whisper now, but it's still there, pulling you forward. You're standing in the now quiet courtyard of the Greek village, the sun dipping low, casting long shadows over the dusty ground. The air still carries the scent of wool and dye, but it's tinged with something heavier. Fear, maybe, or awe. Arachne's transformation into a spider, just moments ago, has left the crowd shaken, most of them fleeing or praying, their looms abandoned. You're still on your stone bench, your lumpy cloth a forgotten lump beside you, watching the tiny spider Arachne weave a delicate web in the shadow of her untouched tapestry. Athena's gone. Her spear and shimmering robe vanished, but her presence lingers, like the faint starry hum of her cosmic loom echoing in your chest. You're about to see weaving thrive despite Arachne's grim lesson, the village picking up their looms with new reverence, and you're caught in the strange mix of dread and determination that follows a goddess's wrath. Picture yourself glancing around. The courtyard nearly empty now. The calloused woman lingers by her loom, her smooth cloth folded carefully, her face pale but set. The braided woman's still here too, staring at Arachne's tapestry, those vivid scenes of mortal defiance, like it's a warning and a treasure. The youngest weaver and the older one are gone, probably hiding in a hut, whispering about Athena's rules. You feel the weight of what just happened. Arachne's talent was unmatched, but her pride turned her into a spider, a living cautionary tale. Yet, as the sun paints the sky orange, you hear a faint clack, a loom starting up in a nearby hut. Then another. You're stunned. The village isn't quitting. They're weaving again, their skill sharper, their respect for Athena's gift deeper. You're drawn to the sound, your feet moving before you think. Here's a fact to ground us. In ancient Greece, weaving remained a vital craft, despite mythic warnings like Arachne's, with textiles driving trade and ritual, as seen in 5th century BCE Athenian records of cloth offerings to Athena. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some tales claim weavers, after Arachne's punishment, hung tiny spider charms on their looms to ward off her fate, a nod to both fear and respect. You glance at the spider Arachne, her web glinting, and wonder if those charms are coming next. Historians still argue whether Arachne's story stifled mortal creativity or pushed weavers to honor Athena's craft with greater care, avoiding her wrath. You wander toward a hut, the clack of looms growing louder, the air cooler as the day fades. Inside, a group of weavers, some from the courtyard, others new, work with quiet focus. Their cloth is smoother than ever, patterns tight, dyes vibrant. You spot the double loop weft trick Athena taught, now second nature. The calloused woman's here, her hands steady, weaving a simple but strong tunic. She catches your eye and nods, no words needed. You both know Arachne's fate has changed things. There's no boasting now, no swagger like before. Athena's rules, clean looms, humble hearts, teach the patient, are law. You try your own loom, your fingers clumsy but learning, and feel a spark of their reverence, like you're part of something sacred. Time for a joke. Why did weavers keep going? They didn't want to spin out of favor. Okay, you're probably not chuckling, but it fits as you watch their focus. The hut's warm, lamp lit, the scent of cedar and wool grounding you. You notice a kid practicing a spindle, her movements careful, like she's scared to slip. The braided woman joins, her cloth less showy now, but still skilled. You're impressed. They're not just weaving cloth. They're weaving Athena's lesson into their lives, ensuring her gift endures. You imagine Arachne's spider, out there in the courtyard, spinning her endless web, a reminder of what happens when you forget the goddess's code. The starry hum is softer now, a gentle pulse in the hut's rhythm. You lean against the wall, its rough texture steadying you, and watch the looms sing. The village is thriving, not despite Arachne's fate, but because of it. Markets are buzzing with better cloth, traders haggling over tunics and sales that rival big cities. You hear whispers of Athena's favor, how her teaching saved them from broken reeds and lumpy threads. But there's fear, too. No one mentions Arachne's name, like it's cursed. You feel the balance, the craft flourishing under Athena's shadow, her starry loom tying this village to something eternal. Here's another quip. Why was weaving stronger? Athena's wrath wove a tighter bond. You smirk, but the mood's solemn. The weaver's hands move with purpose, their cloth stacking up, ready for trade or temples. You're caught in their quiet strength, your breath slowing as you realize Arachne's lesson didn't end weaving. It made it sacred. You're ready to see how this legacy grows, how Athena's gift shapes the village beyond these looms. You're wandering through the Greek village as dusk settles, the air cooling but still rich with the scent of wool and olive oil. The clack of looms echoes from huts, a steady pulse that's become the village's heartbeat since Arachne's transformation into a spider shook everyone to their core. You're no longer in the courtyard, where her defiant tapestry and the tiny web she now weaves still linger like a ghost. Instead, you're drawn to a low hill just outside the village, where a new structure is rising, a small temple, its stone walls fresh and gleaming under the fading light. You're about to explore shrines honoring Athena's weaving gifts, the village's way of thanking the goddess who gave them skill, but also a harsh lesson in humility. The starry hum from her cosmic loom is a faint whisper now, but it's here, woven into the reverence you feel all around. Picture yourself climbing the hill, your cloak brushing wild thyme as you approach the temple. It's modest, not like the grand Parthenon, but it's alive with purpose. Villagers are gathered, some carrying neatly folded cloth, tunics, shawls, even a small peplos dyed deep blue, as offerings. You spot the calloused woman from the courtyard, her face softer now, placing a smooth bolt of cloth on a stone altar. The braided woman's here too, her usual swagger gone, her offering a simple, patterned band. You pause at the temple's entrance, the air scented with incense and fresh-cut cedar, and see a wooden loom inside, strung tight, untouched, like it's waiting for Athena herself. You're struck by the quiet awe. This isn't just gratitude, it's devotion, a promise to never forget Arachne's fate. Here's a fact to ground us. In ancient Greece, temples to Athena often housed looms and received woven offerings, like the peplos presented during the Panathenea festival, a practice well documented in 5th century BCE Athens. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some myths claim Athena's temples had spider wards, tiny carvings of webs to honor Arachne's skill while warding off her curse. You glance at the altar, spotting a small stone etched with a web-like pattern, and shiver. Maybe it's true. Historians still argue whether these shrines were built to appease Athena's wrath or to celebrate her as the weaver's divine patron, ensuring her gifts endured. You step inside, the temple's cool shade a relief from the day's heat. The loom glows faintly in the lamplight, its threads pristine. And you imagine Athena's starry loom, that cosmic marvel, reflected in this humble frame. Villagers kneel, whispering prayers for steady hands and clean looms, echoing Athena's rules you heard days ago. You kneel too, your hands brushing the stone floor, and feel the starry hum, soft but steady, like a thread tying you to their devotion. The calloused woman murmurs, "For the goddess who taught us," and you nod, thinking of Arachne's web, still spinning in the courtyard. This temple's a balance, honoring Athena's gift while remembering the cost of pride. Time for a joke. Why did Athena love temples? They wove her praises in stone. Okay, you're probably not chuckling, but it fits as you watch the offerings pile up. A kid, maybe the youngest weaver's brother, adds a lumpy strip of cloth, his face serious. You grin, remembering your own clumsy attempts, and feel a spark of their pride. Not the boastful kind, but the quiet sort Athena approves. The braided woman lights a lamp, its flame dancing on the loom, and you're caught in the ritual's rhythm, your breath slowing. You notice a carving on the wall, an owl with a spindle, Athena's symbol, watching over the weavers. It's comforting, but also a reminder. She's always watching. The air grows heavier, scented with incense and wool. You step outside, the hill's breeze stirring your cloak, and see more villagers climbing up, their cloth offerings clutched tight. The village below hums with looms, the craft thriving under Athena's shadow. You think of Arachne, her spider form weaving endlessly, and wonder if this temple honors her too, in a way. A nod to the mortal who pushed too far but proved what humans could do. The starry hum pulses gently, tying you to this moment, this shrine, this village that's learned to weave with reverence. Here's another quip. Why were shrines built? To thread Athena's favor forever. You smirk, but the mood's solemn. The temple's a beacon, its loom a promise to keep Athena's gift sacred. You're ready to see how this devotion spreads, how the village carries her legacy beyond these stones. The starry hum is a lullaby now, soft and eternal, pulling you deeper into the story. You're standing on the edge of the Greek village, the night air cool and fragrant with thyme and olive groves. The temple to Athena, glowing faintly on the hill behind you. The clack of looms still drifts from huts, a testament to the weaving skill that's now the village's pride, tempered by Arachne's spider fate and Athena's stern rules. You're no longer focused on the temple's stone altar or its sacred loom. Instead, you're drawn to the village square, where torches flicker and voices hum with excitement. You're about to join festivals celebrating Athena's loom teachings, the villagers gathering to honor the goddess with rituals, dances, and woven offerings. The starry hum from her cosmic loom is a soft pulse now, weaving through the laughter and music, and you're caught in the joy of a community bound by her gift. Picture yourself slipping into the square, your cloak brushing past a stack of dyed cloth piled high for the festival. The crowd's alive, kids chasing each other, weavers showing off tunics and shawls, elders sipping wine and nodding at the looms set up under torchlight. You spot the calloused woman, her smooth cloth now a vibrant peplos dyed crimson, draped over a wooden frame as an offering. The braided woman's here too, leading a group of girls in a dance, their movements mimicking the back and forth of a shuttle. The youngest weaver, her zigzag cloth pinned proudly to her cloak, claps along, her fear from Arachne's transformation replaced by awe. You grin, the energy infectious, and feel the starry hum sync with the festival's rhythm, like Athena's smiling somewhere in the shadows. Here's a fact to ground us. In ancient Greece, festivals like the Panathenea included weaving contests and offerings of cloth to Athena, with smaller village rituals mirroring these by the 5th century BCE, as noted in temple records. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some myths claim Athena sent her owl to hover over weaving festivals, blessing the best cloth with a faint glow only weavers could see. You scan the sky, half expecting that owl now, but see only stars. Historians still argue whether these festivals were purely religious or a way to boost local textile trade, strengthening community ties under Athena's name. You weave through this crowd, the air warm with torchlight and the scent of roasted figs and wool. A group of weavers chants Athena's rules, clean looms, humble hearts, as they present their cloth to a small altar, a miniature of the temples. You kneel beside it, your hands brushing the rough wood, and notice a tiny web carved into the base, a nod to Arachne's lesson. The calloused woman steps forward, her voice steady, recounting how the stranger taught them to weave, her words careful to avoid pride. You're moved, thinking of Athena's disguised lessons in that hut, and feel the starry hum, soft but present, like a thread tying this festival to her cosmic loom. You try a dance step, clumsy but fun, and laugh as a kid mimics you. Time for a joke. Why did Athena love festivals? They spun her praises all night. Okay, you're probably not chuckling, but it fits as you watch the braided woman twirl, her dance-weaving patterns in the air. The square's alive with color, cloth draped over stalls, kids waving dyed ribbons, looms clacking in a friendly contest. You spot the older woman from the hut, her gnarled hands clapping, her face soft with pride. The festival's not just about Athena. It's about the village, their skill now a legacy, their looms a prayer. You feel it too, your breath slowing as you join the crowd, caught in the ritual's warmth. The air grows richer, scented with incense and wine. You pause by a loom, its weaver, a young man with indigo-stained hands, showing you how to thread a simple pattern. You're terrible, but he laughs, and you feel part of this. Like Athena's gift includes you too. The starry hum pulses gently, tying you to the square's joy, the weaver's offerings, the dances that mimic her loom. You think of Arachne's spider, still weaving in the courtyard, and wonder if this festival honors her too, a mortal who pushed the limits, even if she paid the price. The torches flicker, casting shadows that dance like threads, and you're ready to see how these rituals shape the village's story. Here's another quip. Why was the festival grand? It wove Athena's glory in every thread. You smirk, but the mood's warm, reverent. The square's a tapestry of light, sound, and cloth, a celebration of Athena's gift that's stronger for Arachne's warning. You're right there, in the heart of the festival, as the villagers honor their goddess, their looms, and the delicate balance of skill and humility. You're still in the Greek village, the festival's torchlight fading behind you as you wander toward the outskirts, where the night air carries the scent of pine and cooling earth. The clack of looms is softer now, a distant hum from huts, but the village is alive with the legacy of Athena's weaving gift, tempered by Arachne's spider fate. You're no longer caught in the square's dances or the temple's offerings. Instead, you're drawn to a quiet grove, where a group of storytellers, elders, weavers, even kids, gathers under starlight, their voices weaving new tales. You're about to hear myths evolve, stories linking Athena to spindles and looms, born from the village's reverence and Arachne's lesson. The starry hum from Athena's cosmic loom is a gentle whisper, threading through the night, and you're ready to sink into these tales, feeling their weight like a well-spun cloth. Picture yourself settling on a mossy stone, your cloak tucked against the chill, as an elder woman with silver hair begins a story. Her voice is low, rhythmic, like the shuttle's glide. She speaks of Athena not as the spear-wielding goddess, but as a weaver who spun the first thread from a star's light. You lean forward, the grove's shadows dancing in the firelight, and hear how Athena taught mortals to mimic her cosmic loom, her gift a spark of divine order. The calloused woman from the courtyard's here, listening, her hands folded around a spindle. The youngest weaver, her zigzag cloth now a scarf, sits wide-eyed as the tale shifts. Athena's spindle, the elder says, still spins in the sky, guiding weavers who honor her rules. You glance up, half expecting to see that starry loom again, its hum pulsing softly in your chest. Here's a fact to ground us. In ancient Greece, oral storytelling was a key way myths evolved, with tales of gods like Athena adapting to local crafts like weaving, as seen in 6th century BCE poetic fragments. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some village myths claimed Athena's spindle was a gift from the muses, its threads inspiring not just cloth, but stories that kept her legacy alive. You smile, picturing the muses giggling as they handed her a cosmic bobbin. Historians still argue whether these weaving myths were religious tools to honor Athena or creative ways to explain the craft's cultural importance, especially after tales like Arachne's spread. You shift on the stone, its damp moss grounding you, and listen as a young man takes up the storytelling. His tale's darker. Athena's wrath, he says, turned a proud weaver into a spider for mocking her loom. You tense, knowing he means Arachne, though he doesn't name her. The crowd murmurs, the braided woman nodding grimly, her festival dance now a memory. The story's not just about punishment. It's a warning to keep looms clean, hearts humble, like Athena's rules you heard in the courtyard. You feel the starry hum, faint but steady, tying these tales to the village's looms, their cloth now traded far beyond these hills. You're struck by how Arachne's fate, that spider still weaving in the courtyard, has become a myth, a thread in Athena's larger story. Time for a joke. Why did Athena love stories? They spun her legend tighter than thread. Okay, you're probably not chuckling, but it fits as the elder woman tells another tale. Athena weaving a tapestry so vast it held the fates of mortals and gods. You're caught in the rhythm, your breath slowing as the fire crackles. The youngest weaver whispers to a friend, "Does her spindle really spin in the stars?" You grin, loving her wonder, and feel part of this grove, this moment. The tales aren't just stories, they're a bridge, keeping Athena's gift alive in words as much as cloth. You imagine her owl perched nearby, listening, its eyes glinting like the starry loom's threads. The air grows cooler, scented with pine and smoke. You pull your cloak tighter and notice a kid spinning a tiny spindle, practicing as the stories flow. The myths are evolving, blending Athena's teaching with Arachne's warning, creating a tapestry of reverence and caution. You think of the temple, the festival, the looms, all tied to these tales, keeping the village's skill sacred. The starry hum is a lullaby now, soft and eternal, and you're ready to see how Athena ensures her legacy endures, how she watches over these weavers and their stories. Here's another quip. Why were myths born? To weave Athena's glory forever. You smirk, but the mood's warm, reflective. The grove's a sanctuary, its stories a living offering to the goddess who taught them to weave. You're right there, in the starlit night, as the tales spin on, linking spindles to the divine, ready for the next thread in this endless story. You're back in the Greek village, the night air crisp with the scent of pine and distant sea salt, the grove's storytelling fading into a soft hum of memory. You're no longer sitting on that mossy stone, listening to tales of Athena's spindle and Arachne's spider fate. Instead, you're wandering the village's quiet paths, the clack of looms, a gentle undercurrent from huts aglow with lamplight. The temple on the hill looms in the distance, its stone walls a silent testament to Athena's gift. You feel her presence stronger now, not as a teacher or a wrathful goddess, but as a guardian, her gray eyes watching over the weavers who've learned her rules. You're about to sense Athena's watchful eye, protecting her craft from divine envy, like Poseidon's grumbling or Apollo's smirks, ensuring her legacy endures. The starry hum from her cosmic loom is a steady pulse, threading through the night, and you're caught in its quiet power. Picture yourself pausing by a hut, your cloak brushing a pile of dyed wool left outside. Inside, a weaver, maybe the calloused woman, her hands now legendary, works late, her loom singing with the double loop trick Athena taught. You peek through the doorway, the lamplight casting her shadow long, and swear you see a faint shimmer like a divine hand guiding her shuttle. It's Athena, not in person, but in spirit, her watchful eye keeping the craft pure. You glance at the sky expecting her owl, and there it is, perched on a nearby olive tree, its eyes glinting like the starry loom's threads. You shiver, not from cold, but from the sense that Athena's guarding this village, her weavers, from any god who dare disrupt her gift. You're drawn to the thought, your breath slowing as the starry hum wraps you in its rhythm. Here's a fact to ground us. In ancient Greece, Athena was seen as a protector of crafts, with myths from the 5th century BCE describing her shielding artisans from divine or mortal threats, ensuring skills like weaving thrived. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some tales claim Athena's owl would screech to warn weavers of jealous gods, like Poseidon, who might curse their looms with damp threads. You grin, imagining Poseidon sulking as the owl foils his plans, his trident tangled in seaweed. Historians still argue whether Athena's guardianship was a mythic way to explain weaving's cultural strength, or a reflection of real fears about rival gods disrupting mortal progress. You move on, the village paths soft underfoot, and notice signs of Athena's protection everywhere. A small web carving, Arachne's echo, hangs above a hut's door. Not just a ward, but a reminder of Athena's rules. Clean looms, humble hearts. You pass another weaver, the braided woman, folding her cloth with care, her usual swagger softened by reverence. You're struck by the balance. Skill flourishing, pride checked, Athena's watchful eye ensuring no one follows Arachne's path. You try your own spindle, left by a fence, and manage a wobbly thread, feeling a spark of her guidance, like she's nudging your hands. The starry hum is stronger now, a quiet song, and you imagine her cosmic loom spinning threads of protection, keeping other gods at bay. Time for a joke. Why did Athena guard weavers? To keep their threads divine, not divinely cursed. Okay, you're probably not chuckling, but it fits as you spot another owl carving on a loom frame, its eyes painted gold. The village feels safe, its looms thriving, markets buzzing with cloth that rivals city wares. You think of Poseidon grumbling about sales, or Apollo mocking Athena's craft, and realize they've got no power here. Athena's got this village locked down, her owl circling, her rules etched into every weaver's heart. You pause by a stream, its water glinting like her starry threads, and feel her presence, steady, unyielding, a goddess who doesn't just teach but protects. The air grows cooler, the scent of wool and cedar mingling with the night. You lean against a tree, its bark grounding you, and watch the village hum along. The youngest weaver's scarf, with its zigzag pattern, flutters on a clothesline, a small victory under Athena's gaze. You're caught in the quiet strength, the starry hum a lullaby tying you to her watchfulness. Arachne's spider, still weaving in the courtyard, feels distant now, a lesson absorbed but not feared. Athena's ensured her gift endures, not just in cloth, but in the village's soul, safe from divine envy or mortal pride. Here's another quip. Why was Athena vigilant? She didn't want her looms unspun by jealousy. You smirk, but the mood's calm, reverent. The village is a tapestry of skill and devotion, Athena's watchful eye its strongest thread. You're ready to see how this legacy closes, how her cosmic loom spins the final note of this story. The starry hum is eternal, pulling you deeper, and you're right there, in the village's heart, under her quiet protection. You're standing at the edge of the Greek village, the night deepening around you, the air soft with the scent of olive groves and cooling wool. The clack of looms has faded to a whisper, the village settling into sleep, its huts glowing faintly with lamplight. The temple on the hill stands silent, the festival's torches long extinguished, and the grove's stories of Athena's spindle linger like a dream. You're no longer wandering paths or peering into huts. Instead, you're drawn to a quiet meadow just beyond the village, where the stars burn bright, and the starry hum from Athena's cosmic loom feels closer than ever, a gentle pulse syncing with your breath. You're about to drift off as her loom hums forever, its eternal spin weaving the village's legacy into the cosmos. This is the end of the tale, and you're ready to let it lull you into peace. Picture yourself lying on the meadow's grass, your cloak spread beneath you, the blades tickling your neck. The sky above is a tapestry of stars, each one a thread in Athena's divine loom, shimmering with the same glow you glimpsed on that hillside so long ago. You imagine her now, not as the spear-wielding goddess or the disguised teacher, but as a quiet presence, her gray eyes soft, her owl perched somewhere unseen. The village's looms, its temple, its festivals, all born from her gift, feel like threads she's woven into this moment, tying mortal hands to divine order. You hear a faint clack, not from a hut, but from the cosmos, her starry loom spinning stories of weavers, of Arachne's web, of a village that learned to honor her craft. You're sinking into it, your eyelids heavy, the starry hum a lullaby that's always been. Here's a fact to ground us. In Greek mythology, Athena's role as a weaver goddess was eternal. Her influence on crafts like weaving celebrated in temples and myths through the 4th century BCE and beyond. Now for the quirky tidbit. Some tales say Athena's loom never stops, its threads spinning mortal fates into the stars. A cosmic craft no god can unravel. You smile picturing that loom now, its shuttle gliding forever. Historians still argue whether Athena's eternal weaving was a metaphor for divine control or a poetic nod to the enduring power of human skill under her guidance. You shift, the grass cool under your hands, and let the meadow's quiet wrap you. The village below is at rest, its weavers dreaming of clean looms and humble hearts, their cloth traded far, their stories told wide. You think of the calloused woman, her steady hands, the braided woman, her dance, the youngest, her zigzag scarf, all threads in Athena's design. Even Arachne's spider, still weaving in the courtyard, feels part of it, a delicate web glinting under moonlight. You imagine Athena's owl soaring above, its wings silent, guarding the village from divine envy, ensuring her gift spins on. The starry hum is softer now, a whisper of creation, and you feel it in your bones, like you're woven into her tapestry too. Time for a joke. Why does Athena's loom hum, its spinning dreams for weavers? Okay, you're probably not chuckling, but it fits as you sink deeper into the grass. The stars seem to pulse, mimicking the loom's rhythm, and you're drifting, your thoughts blurring into the night. You see flashes of the village, looms clacking, cloth stacking, festivals dancing, all held by Athena's watchful eye. The starry hum is your guide, pulling you gently toward sleep, its melody a promise that her craft, her story, will never unravel. You're ready to let go, to let the meadow and the stars carry you away. Here's one last quip. Why is Athena's loom eternal? It weaves the night itself. You smirk, your eyes closing, the meadow's quiet, complete. The village, its weavers, its goddess, all fade into the starry hum, a song that's both end and beginning. You're there, under the cosmos, as Athena's loom spins on forever. Now, let the meadow hold you, its grass a soft cradle under the endless stars. Your breath slows, matching the gentle pulse of that starry hum, like a loom rocking you to rest. The village sleeps below, its looms quiet, its weavers dreaming of threads and patterns, safe under Athena's gaze. You see her cosmic loom in your mind, its threads glinting gold and silver, weaving not just cloth, but moments. The calloused woman's steady hands, the youngest's zigzag scarf, even Arachne's delicate web. The night wraps you tighter, cool and calm, the scent of pine and wool fading into something softer, like clouds spun fine. You're drifting, the stars blurring into a single glow, the hum a whisper that says, "Rest now, you're part of this." Let your thoughts unravel, let the meadow's quiet carry you, let Athena's loom sing you into dreams. The story's done, the thread's tied off, and all that's left is peace, deep and boundless, like the sky above. Sleep now gently as the loom hums on.